So I've been sitting here trying to wrap my head around how I can understand the actions of the West's elites without, like, in a way where they don't come out like retards. And it's actually really difficult when you look back at trying to understand how they think and how they view the world. Because, you know, like last year, it was all about where we've ran the numbers. It isn't about your feelings, it's about the greatest number. So if a few people kind of drop dead here and there, that's one thing. It's for the great struggle against the virus, the pandemic. We're willing to live with that. We've got all of the number, we've got the data, and we're gonna this is policy now. It's this purely sort of utilitarian look on it. That's what it was, a technocratic kind of system. And the funny thing about the Ukraine crisis is that there were people who had similar kind of views on that, where it was based on a political realism, based on where you put yourself in the shoes of the players, the other players on the board, and you put yourself in his shoes and you see what he's got at stake, and you can run the numbers and you can crunch the numbers and you can say, okay, this is what he's willing to go to bat for, and this is what he'd be willing to give up. This is what this is the pawn that I have on the table, on the board, that I'd be willing to sacrifice for the greater good, and this kind of thing. So that this of course was the thinking of somebody like that John J. Mearsheimer. So when the Ukraine crisis broke out, an old kind of speech of his was dug up where he predicted all of this, and he was saying that Western policy wasn't based on realism, it wasn't based on common sense or rationalism. And this is kind of weird, because we're supposed to think that this is how the West works, and especially like last year, for the year before, we're supposed to think that everything is based on this kind of logical calculation. I mean, remember how we had to listen to the experts, listen to the scientists, listen to the people who had the numbers, listen to the people who had the diplomas and the PhD. All of the people with these knowledges, like priests, they would hand down this knowledge to us and we had to obey. That's just the way it was. Well, that was last year. This year, fuck all that, because even though last year, like, we lived inside of some arsehole's computer model for like 18 months or whatever, well, this year that's gone straight out the window. This year it's all about the great patriotic struggle. And it doesn't matter that the world could go down in a fireball of nuclear war. It doesn't matter that the wheat supplies in our northern Africa are going to run out. It doesn't matter that there's going to be energy crises and that people's bills are doubling already. It doesn't matter if the dollar can get tanked. It doesn't matter how many people get blown to pieces in Ukraine. It doesn't matter how many refugees we have to take in. Now it's all in the name, like, fuck rationalism. Now it's all in the name of this grand liberal vision where everywhere in the world, especially Russia for some reason, has to become a liberal democracy, has to be woke, has to be celebrate gay rights. Everywhere in the world has to be the same. And so this is the problem that I've got with this. That's why I haven't really said so much about the whole situation in Ukraine. It's because it's as if Western elites have got like some form of schizophrenia, where the world view they had last year is now completely at odds with the worldview they've got this year. Nobody wants to hear about geopolitical realists. Nobody wants to hear about the scientists. Everybody wants to get whipped up into like a frenzy and a hysteria about that Zelensky's Captain Marvel, or Vladimir Putin as Putler. It's become this like fight of good against evil, of liberalism against tyranny and autocracy, and the next Hitler, and all of this, all of the rest of the kind of tropes. When I think, well, all right, so what happened to putting all that aside? What happened to your feelings don't matter, it's all about the facts? Because that's last year. That doesn't matter anymore. This year feelings are back, baby. This year it doesn't matter how many people have to die. It doesn't matter how dangerous it is for the world. Now all that matters is your feelings and your grand liberal idealism. It's got nothing to do with a rational mind whatsoever. It's only about spreading liberal democracy and bringing light to the world. And the worst thing about this is the way that the Western sort of media, big tech complex is able to just manipulate the masses. Everybody's remarked on this, you know, I'm in favour of the next big thing, but it's worse when you might, like, at the root of it, the value systems have just completely been switched. Like last year's expert is this year's Russian shill. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how that he spent years and years studying geopolitics and foreign policy and grand strategy and Sun Tzu and Clausewitz. Oh, who gives a shit? Let's all get whipped over. Let's just lash ourselves into this frenzy. Let's sign up and head to the front lines where we all give away the locations of bases and get ourselves blown up. It's a complete polar opposite. But the Western, certain segments of the Western establishment seem to be so Machiavellian it beggars belief, because then they in full knowledge flip between one and the other. But then I have to think, well, all right, but at the end of the day, this is the news cycle. But then the policy was implemented. What were they thinking in the policy that, like, antagonized Russia? Why were the realists not listened to then? Why were the scientists not listened to? Is this, like, what were they thinking? In what universe was this going to have a good outcome? Remember last year when you didn't have the right to put other people in danger, when your rights and opinion as an individual meant fuck all against the great, in relative to the great struggle? Well, now that's turned on its head. This year you don't have the right to pipe up about a possible end of the world or economic collapse or the end of the West. You just have to keep your mouth shut, because now you're not standing in the way of the science, you're standing in the way of the idealism, of the liberal idealism. So you've got two different things here. You've got two different things which are running diametrically opposed to each other. It's two different groundings of understanding the world, and in the West we're expected to believe both of them at the same time. And this is why you cannot make head nor tail of what the fuck is going on in Ukraine. Which is it? Is it the purely realistic kind of utilitarian scientific frame, or is it the liberal idealist frame? It seems to be the liberal idealist frame's got us into a load of pig shit, and that the utilitarian frame is going to benefit from it somehow. I mean, I don't know. It's just, and I don't know what to say anymore. It's I've said before, the political class. You say what you want about people like fucking Bill Gates and Klaus Schwab. At least they've got a plan. It may be evil, but at least there's a plan. I look at the political class in the West, and they've got the IQ of a boiled potato. It beggars belief. And this is their stupid liberal vision which seems to have got us in here. Whereas last year it was a different people. But who knows? Maybe next year the frame will change again. Maybe in 6 months it'll change again, when we're all eating out of baked beans and we're all sitting in the cold. At least then we can say that we were true to liberalism, the liberalism that was being pissed on last year.